Yeah, no, I think, that's why I work with the Medical Cannabis Clinicians Society, because absolutely doctors are not trained in the endocannabinoid system. They believe that it's some sort of witch's potion because we're saying it helps with lots of different symptoms. Well, it's because it works on a system, not a symptom. And they're trained in treating people's symptoms with a single compound pharmaceutical, not treating someone's system, which can produce lots of different symptoms. And I think it's a different way of thinking. My experience with now Alfie's team are absolutely amazing. I'm very lucky with his GP, obviously Mike Barnes. I've got a paediatric neurologist within the NHS that sadly cannot prescribe, but he's very supportive because he's seen Alfie gone from being in hospital every week to having long stretches of seizure freedom. That's undeniable evidence. Whatever anyone says, that's undeniable evidence. So I'm very lucky now. Initially, when I first started looking at using cannabis with Alfie, I had a paediatric neurologist who was very dismissive, actually tried to get us on the trial for Epidiolex, which we were very grateful for, but Alfie was refused. And I didn't really understand enough about cannabis to know then that Epidiolex wasn't cannabis as I understood it from the people I talked to in America and Canada who were using it with children with epilepsy. But we tried to get on that trial 3 times, actually. Even our MP tried to get us on that trial, and we were refused because Alfie didn't have Dravet's or LGS. And again, I think people look at that trial and they think, oh, well, Epidiolex helps Dravet and LGS. No, it doesn't help Dravet's and LGS. It helps the endocannabinoid system. So if it works for Dravet and LGS, then it's going to probably work for most other epilepsies to a point. And that was a really difficult relationship with that paediatric neurologist, because he said, well, you can't go on the trial. And I said, okay, well, I'm going to then think about using cannabis another way. I'm going to look at going abroad. And he said, if you talk to me about using cannabis with your child, and bear in mind, this is when Alfie was in hospital every week having clusters, he said, I'm going to need to speak to social services about you saying that to me, because that puts your child at risk. And that was the position I was in. And that was really upsetting for me. And he also was quite belittling to me, because he used to say, and it doesn't surprise my partner Drew is the most laid back, lovely person in the world. And that's probably a good thing, because I'm just someone who doesn't stop talking. But he used to say, you always say I and you don't say we. And I'm like, well, I'm not talking on behalf of Drew, I'm talking on behalf of me. And if he doesn't want to say anything, that's up to him, because I'm not talking for him. So it was a very difficult relationship. And at that point, I just said, I can't trust you, and I'm not talking to you. I don't want to be under your care anymore. And we were very lucky with our local paediatric consultant at Warwick, who was brilliant. And he said, no, let's find you another paediatric neurologist who's willing to talk to you about this. And we did, and we moved to someone else. And he was very, very good. And he actually said to us to go to Holland and to try the medicinal cannabis products. And he was willing to prescribe, but sadly, he was blocked from doing so, which is why then we met. That's how we met Mike Barnes in March 2018. And he was willing to help us with the license for Alfie. But up until that point, we had, we were very well supported by the doctors around Alfie, but I just think they just don't understand it. It's ignorance at the end of the day.
I was just thinking there, right, and just go with me here, because I'm fuming because if I was in that situation, I probably would have decked that doctor. Probably would have. How fucking dare you? Do you know what I mean? But it's like, is it negligence as well on the doctor's behalf now? Do you know what I mean? Because I
don't think it is, because it's not a licensed drug. So the fact is that they can hide behind that and say, well, there's no randomized controlled trials of safety, so actually I'm the one in the wrong. But I think I had the last laugh, because I was asked to speak at an epilepsy action conference in Birmingham, and my paediatric neurologist, my old one, was going to speak as well. And then when he found out I was there, he actually wasn't able to attend. So I think he was actually quite frightened of me in the end, which, so I had the last laugh, because actually what you have to remember with people like that, I think we're moving away from the dynamic of the doctor being the God. And I think that's where that's changing. And I remember my dad, bless him, is a staunch socialist who went on the CND marches with my mother in the 60s.
Nice.
And he said to me when I was at Great Ormond Street Hospital, he said, Hannah, don't forget that doctors aren't gods, they're just people. And I've never, you know, he's right. I respect doctors, I respect anyone, but actually respect me too.
Absolutely.
Because I'm Alfie's mother.
Absolutely.
And I have a right to have a decision-making process into my son's care. And so does my partner. And I think that's where we're moving to. And some doctors don't like that. They don't like that sort of equal decision making. And it's the same with the medicinal cannabis movement as a whole, or the cannabis movement as a whole. It's a patient-led movement. People are going to their doctor saying, I want this medicine, and doctors don't like that, you know, and I think that's why it's become so controversial.